All right, welcome back to the podcast, everybody. We're filming this right now on my iPhone. All my camera gear is in Boone, and I want to get this episode up to you guys as soon as possible. So I figured just use what I got. But first off, thank you to everybody who has watched the first episode of the podcast or listened. We got some really nice feedback and some really nice comments from you guys. So that was awesome. I'm glad you guys like the podcast format. I thought it was a ton of fun, and I'm really excited to share this conversation with you guys with my buddy Bryant Patterson. Bryant is a really talented videographer. He's a good friend of mine. He's worked for some of the biggest fishing brands in the industry, and he currently works for the Googan Squad and has worked with John B. and all those guys. So we had a really fun conversation, getting to pick his brain, kind of how he came up in the videography world and how he kind of dipped his toes and is now working full-time for the Googan Squad and kind of what that process looks like. For you guys out there who are videographers, creatives, photographers, or people who are curious, people who are interested in maybe getting into that at some point, this is a really good conversation for you. And hopefully there's some things in this that you guys can take away and hopefully learn from Bryant's journey and his process and some of the things that we talk about in this conversation. But before we dive into the episode, I want to let you guys know that we are running a holiday sale, a Black Friday sale, Cyber Monday sale, whatever you want to call it, that's going to be running through the 2nd of December. So that is this coming Wednesday for any of you who are listening right away. So if you guys are interested in saving up to 25% off on a bunch of our gear, go check that out. www.wild-fly.com/shop. You can go check that out, and all the discounts are applied automatically. So enough of me talking here. Let's just dive into the episode with Bryant.
3, 2, 1. We are live.
Dude, we're in Texas.
Southern Texas
right now with here with my buddy Bryant, and we're down in Texas doing a little red fishing last couple days, and
trying to.
Definitely
trying to. We stink. I mean, that's just the long story short. It's been a tough 2 days. Maybe tomorrow might be good. Conditions are looking better. But we've found out the hard way that we suck at saltwater fishing.
We had 20-mile-an-hour winds, which we had no choice but to basically call it for most of the day. That's our excuse, at least.
and then we turned around and did the same thing that we got caught in this morning. There was big rollers just out in the main channel, and we got caught in it this morning. And my boat does not handle big waves at all, and we got caught in it this morning, and we're like, man, that was bad. And then we went out and did it again.
I know. And we went into the channel where it was even worse, and coming back into the wind was just, I literally, I don't panic very much when I'm out on the boat, but today there was a little point in me and I was like, all right, I'm kind of panicking right now, but we made it back.
It's the unknown. It's the salt water is the unknown to us. We didn't grow up doing this type of stuff. I don't even know which way I can or which part of the bay I can go on plane on, or anything like that. It's just, I feel like I'm walking on thin ice wherever I go in saltwater.
Yeah.
So y'all heard it first. I'm not a saltwater fisherman, but I do love me some redfish.
But it's cool to kind of switch it up from trout fishing or bass fishing. It's a totally different game, and it's something I'm intrigued with and I want to get better at.
Yeah. Well, shout out to Scotty,
but got
on 2 fish today.
A gup. We got 1 gup, and then we got a pretty good fish. But enough of our trip. You guys can watch the video and find out how this trip ends up. But dude, I'm glad we can finally make this happen. I think this will be a ton of fun. I was thinking recently, it was really funny how I was trying to think back. I was like, when did we actually meet? And I know we followed each other on Instagram. That's kind of how we connected. But I think we were in that Instagram. What's it called?
It was just a big group of people, just in an Instagram community type deal.
People in the fishing.
Yeah, they were just fishing people, and
I forget what the term is for it.
I don't know what it was either, but we were in that. But we had followed each other before, that for sure.
It was for you guys who don't know. It was like one of those Instagram. You get in like a group, like Instagram group with people in like the fly fishing world or whatever industry you're in, and basically like the thing is like whenever you post or whatever, you put your post into the message, and then everyone goes and comments, and it's supposed to like drive engagement. And it was like the idea is like cool, like it makes sense, but then when you get into it, it's like it's not authentic, and it's just
it's not.
It wasn't like what I wanted out of. But anyways, we both recognize that, which I feel like.
Yeah, I got out of it like so quick.
Yeah.
I don't care about Instagram.
I know.
I'm on a weird hiatus. Don't ask me about it.
Every time we fish, though, you get an Instagram post out. We're trying this time.
I do. Yeah, we're trying. We need to have a stellar day.
Yeah.
And we'll get an Instagram post up. But yeah, I guess that was like kind of just our first interactions. Well, maybe like before that there was something else. Like I think we both followed each other on Instagram, and then that little group thing happened, and I think me and you messaged each other. We're just kind of like, fuck this.
let's yeah. So tread lightly, people of the Instagram. When you get asked to join those groups, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're I don't know. But besides that, I was like when I first I guess saw your stuff on Instagram, I was like super impressed because it definitely stood like your content for fly fishing especially definitely stood out to me. It was very well produced. The sound was very good, like top notch, and I mean, it was like some of the better fly fishing content that I had seen. And so,
thank you.
Especially some of the slow-mo stuff with the FS7 or 700 or whatever.
Yeah.
This is a beast.
Yeah.
But what was super cool is we were able to connect finally and make a trip happen up to New Hampshire and do a little trip. That was awesome. But then also it was like it was a total learning curve for us in terms of like the freelance world and the filming world, like figuring it out, Yeah,
that was like first couple shoots for like I'd done some like YouTube things like before then, which is not really that detailed at all, but like that was like kind of the first couple, maybe like first 5 like client type shoots. I remember Scotty just like messaging me on Instagram like, hey, do you want to like there's this lodge and it's up in New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, yeah.
New Hampshire. It's up in New Hampshire, and like, do you want to go? And like, and like at the time, it actually worked out perfect because like I was doing like lodge videos, like hunting and fishing lodge videos. Like me and a buddy back home, we're kind of teaming up and doing these hunting and fishing lodge videos. And so like at the time, it really made sense, and I was glad, I went on the trip. It was pretty fun. And
yeah,
I learned a lot too because I felt like I was kind of heading, kind of directing it.
Totally.
And yeah, it was a good trip.
It was like my first like introduction to, I'd say like a big freelance project, like dealing with a client and like figuring, because I think it's so hard as someone who is a creative and like especially like filming world or the photography world, like figuring out how to value yourself and like what your time and everything is worth. That can be really tricky. So that was a good I think like introduction to it, and we both just like helped each other throughout it, learn things from each other. And that was awesome. But let's like take a step back.
Yeah,
I'd like to hear kind of how you came about doing all this filming, and where that kind of started for you and how that has kind of turned into like your career today,
I've always filmed like ever since I was a little kid. Like I remember getting like the, your mom's Sony Handycam or something like that, or whatever, those old cameras with like the disc in them. It would like automatically write to like a DVD or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it was, but I remember filming on those like at a really early age, just like silly stuff, around the house. And I don't know. I mean, it just kind of has always been a thing. I've always been the guy on like the trips with friends. that brings some sort of camera, and it just kind of evolved over time. I remember editing my first video when I was like probably like 9, and it was on Windows Movie Maker.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I think we've all been there.
Shout out to anyone who still uses Windows Movie Maker.
You're a beast. If it still exists, I don't know if it exists.
But I don't know. I just started playing around with it when I was like 9 years old, and it just kind of made sense to me. Not saying that editing's easy, but I made some crappy video and showed my mom or someone in my family. They're like, "Oh yeah,
that looks great, Bryant."
That looks great. I don't know I think it was just stock footage that came on like the Windows XP computers or some of those old computers. There was like stock footage. I don't think I'm making this up. I think there was like stock images and footage that came on the computer.
Damn.
So I just like started editing one day randomly. Little 9-year-old me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, ever since then, I just had always filmed on like family vacations, fishing. Obviously, I filmed a lot of that. GoPro, I've always said GoPro is like the most influential company as far as getting people into filming.
Yeah, totally. That was
like,
the number one for me.
Literally everyone I know right now who's in my industry, like you, Wes Davis. I work with Wes Davis a good bit, and a couple other guys too. All got their start using a GoPro, and it's just film kind of whatever happens, whether it's good or bad, and slap some music over it. And like it has got so many people into this industry. It's not even funny. Like
yeah,
it's pretty crazy. But yeah, it just kind of evolved over time. And then after college, I was just like, I really couldn't see myself doing anything else, and so just kind of ran with it.
Let's backtrack for a second, and go back to one, like where you grew up and what your childhood and upbringing looked like, because obviously outdoors were super influential for you.
For sure.
Getting into this career and just like fishing in general, hunting, everything that you love to do.
Yeah.
So what does growing up for you look like? Like, were you around an outdoor oriented family? And, when did you kind of get introduced to all of the outdoor recreation?
For sure. So I am from Huntsville, Alabama, which is extreme North Alabama. I mean, I'm like 20 or 30 minutes from the Tennessee line. I grew up fishing in both states. I have a family that is very outdoors centered. And I mean, I just grew up hunting and fishing. I mean, that's what my dad does. That's what everyone in my family does. Yeah, I mean, North Alabama is a good place to grow up and, learn how to hunt and fish. And, it's kind of a place that's, I'm just rambling now.
No, you're good.
What else was it?
So basically, like going from, like talking through kind of how you got introduced to fly fishing, hunting.
Oh, yeah.
And how that kind of carried into what you do today.
I got introduced to fly fishing from my grandfather. One day we go to the lake. We have a place on a river called the Elk River in Tennessee. And one day we were going there. We go there. My family goes there all the time, every summer, for weeks and weeks at a time. And one day it was like midsummer, and we were going there, and my grandfather like called me and was like, "Hey, like, this is when I was really young." Or called my mom. I guess I didn't have a cell phone back then. It's like, "Hey, like, I have a surprise. Like when you get to the lake house, like, I think you'll like whatever I bought you from the store." And I think he went to like Walmart or Dick's or something like that and got me like a starter kit. And this is when I was really little, and I picked it up and I caught some bluegill on it. Like that weekend, I caught some I think I caught some white bass or yellow bass on them. And it was kind of just instant for me. After that, I was just like, I kind of like this. Like it feels good when you hook a fish. It really does. It feels better than, a regular rod.
Yeah. Totally.
And I was just kind of hooked after that, and I just kept at it for some reason. I guess I liked it well enough where I was like, hey, like I don't really want to do any sort of fishing besides fly fishing. And that's the way I was for a long while. And fly fishing puts you in some of the most beautiful places in the world, like a river in the mountains. I don't know if you can get much more beautiful than that, but that's kind of where my filming and photos and stuff like that took off. Like both of them kind of grew together. I credit like filming a lot to fly fishing and like my travels fly fishing, because you go to some of the coolest places and get to see some of the coolest things, and you want to like tell your friends about it. And like I would try to tell my friends about it, like when I first started, and they'd be like, oh yeah, like that sounds cool. But then, I'd start taking the camera with me, and it's like, hey, like look at this, isn't this cool?
Oh, this is kind of cool actually.
Yeah. And they're like, oh shoot, yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Also, you can brag about how big
Yeah.
the fish was that you caught. But
I feel like when I first started, I was kind of the same route in terms of like I was like when I was really getting into fly fishing, I was also getting into filming and like bringing the GoPro along and like filming our trips, because I felt like it was such a cool and unique experience that like I wanted to share with people. I was like, this is like so much fun. Why are like not more of my friends like doing this? Like I want to share with people like how much fun we're doing.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I was starting, and this might be the same for you, I felt like people almost had like turned like a cold shoulder to like people who filmed fly fishing. I felt like it was like a lot of people were kind of like, oh, like what's this dude with a camera, bringing a camera along? Like that's so silly. Like you should be focusing on the fishing. And I felt like some pressure from I guess certain people going in. But I feel like it's so important, like for people or people who enjoy documenting and enjoy their fishing. I encourage so many people to get out and film.
Yeah.
Because I think it's such a great way to relive your experience, no matter if you're posting on YouTube or if it's just for yourself or anything. But I think especially the fly fishing industry growing so much right now, it being like a great opportunity for people to share their content like on YouTube. And I'm sure you're aware of that.
Sure.
Working on YouTube,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with YouTube.
Yeah. I kind of lost track with totally what I was going to say there, but let's I kind of want to transition to like YouTube and let's like walk me through how you graduate college and you start getting into this filming thing. Yep. How do you kind of land now with, working with the Googan Squad, like one of the biggest YouTube channels for the fishing industry? Mm-hmm. Like what does that look like, that process look like for you, and how do you kind of end up to where you are?
How did I get there?
Yeah, like I'd love to hear just what that sounds like.
Shoot. I got there filming a lot for not much money, to be quite honest. I had an internship right out of college, or it was like my final thing for college, with a company called Montana Wild, and I filmed my ass off out west, and put together a little reel. It's like 2017 or something like that, and like put together a little reel, and just I filmed so much like that summer and learned a lot from those guys, and I guess I built a portfolio up. I think that's the most important thing for any sort of creative out there, like having a portfolio, some sort of portfolio you can show, like, hey, this is what I can do. And I think after that summer I built my portfolio up enough, and I just was, man, it was just such a random event. I was DM'd one day by this dude on Instagram named John B. It was just random. It was like February 2018 maybe. And he was like, hey man, really like your work, or something along. I don't really remember how the conversation went, but we just started talking, and I had noticed him like a while ago. Like he followed me. And I was like, who the heck is this dude?
This dude's got a lot of followers.
Yeah, he has he has a ton of followers. I don't watch YouTube. Like I still don't really watch YouTube. But yeah, he followed me, and then we started messaging on Instagram, like, hey, like, and he's like, hey, I always need like people to help me film. Like, do you want to help me like sometime, a future project or something? I was like, yeah. He's like, well, I do in fact have a trip to Greenland coming up.
Not a bad way to your first trip.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. That was the first trip I ever took, like kind of my first like gig like on my own, and it was a great trip. John B is a great guy, and I really liked working for him for sure. But man, that trip was kind of gnarly.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. I don't know if any of you guys follow John B on YouTube or anything like that, but like nothing happened on the trip.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. We just kind of toured around Iceland instead of Greenland. We were supposed to go to Greenland. We had 3 failed landing attempts in Greenland. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. We would hop on the plane, and it's not that far from Reykjavik to where we were flying to in Greenland. And we would come over the ocean there, and it was crazy. Like, once you got to Greenland, like, that's the most insane landscape I've ever seen in my life. Like, just from the plane. I was like, holy moly, this is insane. And, like, you come in there in this little seaplane. I don't even know what it was. And, like, there's a ton of fog. You're coming through the clouds, and you're like, where's the ground? I don't know where the ground is. And we didn't even see it the first time. I don't even think we saw the ground the first time. But, like, the first time was definitely the scariest. We came in there like super hot, and the pilot had to pull some weird maneuver that like sent everyone into like a G-force, like, and like the plane was shaking, people were screaming, and like, or they weren't screaming, but like people were like
making
noises,
freaked out,
like nervous.
So it was like a small little plane.
Yeah. And like the sheet, like the seats were shaking, and like we pulled this just insane G-force. Like we were coming down to the runway and we couldn't even see it. And we were coming down, and we're like, okay, don't see it. And finally the pilot's just like, I'm getting out of here. Like, screw this, and just pulls up on the sticks. And like the place we were in Greenland, like the valleys are not that wide. Like, there was mountains on either side of us. Like, he had to do this insane maneuver, like, kind of up and out of this valley.
You're like, what have I got myself into?
Yeah. I got off the plane that day, and I called my sister, I remember, and I was just like, I almost just crashed. And I don't think we're that close to crashing, but, yeah, like, I've been in a lot of planes in my career, and, like, that was easily the scariest. Knock on wood.
And then the lobstick one, of course. Then you had the one to Boston.
That one wasn't that bad.
No, that wasn't that bad.
Wasn't that bad. But
so then, how'd you guys end up in Iceland?
Well, I mean, 3.
They're not that close, are they?
It was pretty close. It was like an hour or something flight.
Oh, okay.
So, but like it's not like you could fly there, see if like the runway is like good enough to land, or maybe like choose an airport nearby. It was like, that's the only choice.
Yeah.
And so like they literally only had enough gas in the plane to go there and back. And like if they spent any time there at the location where the runway was, like, you know, you might run out of got on the way back. I don't know. It was really sketchy.
Jesus. So did you guys end up doing like any fishing?
No.
No,
I get hired for a fishing series, and we don't do any fishing at all. So we actually had a really fun time in Iceland. It was a lot of fun. Like we would just, it kind of became routine, like especially after like the second and third time. We would get on the plane and like go over there. Nope, runway doesn't look good. And like the second and third time we finally saw the runway, it was like a gravel like strip, and it was like not suitable for a plane. Like it just didn't look good.
Yeah.
And so you whip a Yui, go back to Iceland, land in Iceland, then you have the whole day, and go explore Iceland, and it was kind of cool. But that was kind of a cool first gig, and that was kind of like how that all started with like Googan. Since then, John and the other guys for Googan asked me to come on with them to do most of the Googan Squad videos.
Nice.
So we, that's kind of.
So they're like, all right, Greenland was good. Like, let's bring him on.
Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of time in between that. I did a couple series for John, but directly.
What was that like for your, like, you know, that was kind of like your first, I feel like, gig like out of college, or in terms of like, you know, on your own, like your first deal, like, and you're shooting for this guy on YouTube, you know.
Yeah.
Did you have like a lot of like creative freedom going into it, or is it kind of like directed, or what did that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about like the format.
Yeah, just like the format and like the series and everything.
It's really, there is a lot of creative freedom when you're filming for someone like John. I mean, John's a pretty creative guy, and you know, when I worked for him, it was all like, hey, there's full creative freedom. There's a couple things that you just need to go by when you edit this thing, like cut some cuss words out and stuff like that. But other than that, it's just full creative freedom, and that was pretty refreshing on any project when you're granted full creative freedom. Like that's a great project to be on, because it doesn't box you in.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I answered your question.
And I feel like you're also speaking more like true to like your voice. You know, maybe it's like you're filming someone else, but you're still able to kind of portray.
Oh, there's that timer.
There's the timer.
Sorry guys, got to restart the camera.
Yeah, if anyone knows how to combat the whole 30-minute time deal on the Sonys, definitely let us know. But so you start filming for John.
Yep.
And then you get this opportunity to come work for Googan.
Yeah.
What was like going through your head, you know, going into that decision, and like being able to, you know, work for a company like that and film in the fishing industry?
I mean, it was a pretty easy decision. Like at the time I was like, heck yeah. Like the guy who heads I don't know if any of you guys know, I mentioned his name once before, but Wes Davis is an extremely talented creator out there. Fly fishing industry in general. Like I really respect the dude. And he has kind of headed up the whole Googan Squad video stuff. Like kind of, he was their first like person that they collaborated with for filming. And he kind of has not brought everyone together, but like has kind of headed up the video department on a lot of the Googan Squad stuff and a lot of the other productions that are associated with the Googans and stuff like that. And so like I knew of Wes pretty well, like going into it, and was inspired by his work a lot. And so it was a really easy decision. Like when John asked me, I was like, heck yeah, like that sounds great to me.
And getting to work for like with somebody who, like you said, you're like super inspired by.
Yeah, for sure.
And like look
That's
up
never
to.
a bad thing. Yeah.
So you know now, like what, you're 2 years in? Is that
a little over 2 years.
2 years in.
Yeah.
I'm sure like you've grown a ton.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Production, editing, like.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. So like 2 years of like doing the same thing. Like I love to edit. That is my favorite thing. Like you could throw away the camera. Like I do own one camera, but I never use it. I've fallen in love, you know, with the post-production side of things. I know that sounds boring to a lot of you camera people, but I just love editing, and that's just kind of my thing. And it's really been more apparent to me, especially after 2 years of editing and filming at the same time. I always just am dying to get back in the post-production, you know, room, and I love kind of wrestling with a story and like piecing it together. And 2 years of working for Googan has really helped me refine what my process is. It's made me really confident in creating a story, and in crafting a video from start to finish. And so, I mean, I guess if you do anything long enough, like you'll find a quicker way to do it. You'll obviously get better. Yeah. Not saying I'm the greatest, but I am
pretty good.
I am confident in what I do.
And I think creative confidence is like really important as a creator, because you want to be in a position where you can get into that kind of try to get to that flow state where everything is going smoothly. Obviously, you're going to run into roadblocks with any story that you put together, but finding as many times throughout the editing process that you can get into that state where you're like cranking it out is super important. But like, what is your process and look like for like just a story in general? From like, what like fundamentals of a story are you looking for typically when you're going out to try to film and like put together a video?
I've heard the saying before, but it's like when you're going into filming, when you're gonna go film something, film like you're editing it, like almost. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but almost visualize like a timeline, like your editing timeline out there when you have your camera in your hand, and you need those loose ends tied up. You need intros, outros, talking points. Okay, what happened here? Okay, what happened there? Why do you think that? And stuff like that. Hey, where are we? Like everyone, when you're a young creative, I'm not saying I'm this old sage or anything like that, but when you're a young creative, everyone's telling you no. And I feel like if you do your work enough and you work hard enough and you develop that confidence, it's kind of like breaking out of that. Like, no, you can't do that. No, your work is terrible.
Yeah, you kind of have to like eliminate. You have to really look at the people that are giving you feedback. You really have to take in consideration who is giving you feedback, and if they're someone who is just some random dude on YouTube that's criticizing your work, like you can't be like the YouTube Nazis. Yeah, I'm sure you know about that. Yeah, you got to think about like who you're actually going to take someone's opinion seriously. Yeah. Like if it's someone you care about and someone you love, like someone who's close to you, and they give you valuable feedback or criticism, like I feel like that's more important than looking at all the Instagram comments or looking at all the YouTube comments. Yeah. And so although you aren't like the Googan Squad, like the guys, so to say, you're like behind the scenes doing the video and the editing, I'm sure that those comments still kind of play a role in like what you're doing. How have you kind of gone around,
negative comments?
Yeah, like negative comments, and like how have you kind of dealt with seeing those and like with your work being criticized, basically?
I mean, it's easier said than done with like YouTube comments, because like the minute you respond to a YouTube comment and like kind of try to fire back, it's just a black hole. And like I remember doing stuff for John, like y'all can look on the first video, that Iceland video I was talking about, like that thing was not color graded. Like the sound effects were off. Someone was commenting about the color grading and how bad that John should fire the cameraman that like that he hired for this trip. It's just the worst video I've ever seen type stuff. And at first I was kind of freaking out. I was like, these people hate me. Like, what's going on here? Like I didn't think the video was that bad. Yeah. And I don't know. You got to decide at some point, are you going to let that define you? Or are you just going to try to have thicker skin and just be like, basically screw that guy?
Yeah. like his opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah, his opinion doesn't matter. Just like, I just kind of let it bounce off you. Basically, just don't take their opinion to heart is what I'm trying to say here. Yeah. Like, it's easier said than done. You spend all night working on some edit, and then some little nerd on YouTube is just like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. Yeah.
Sitting behind the screen, they have so much power.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, thanks for taking time out of your day to comment that. It really made mine. So appreciate it.
Yeah. So I know something for you I've been definitely influenced by and inspired by is your sound design, and the way you go about that. Talk about like when you figured out, when sound was like such an important part of a story, and like how you started involving that more in your films.
So, yeah, the moment I realized that sound, I would okay, let me backtrack a little bit. I would argue that video editing is not really video editing at all. It's all sound design. I would argue that. Like some of you would be like, oh no, it's composition, it's this, but you got the most beautiful video, and if it's a silent film, you've run into that. You're not gonna watch it. Yeah, I've run into that, and that is what made me really appreciate sound design. I after my internship after college in Montana, I went on like a cross country, like just fishing and filming tour. Like I fished from Montana down to Colorado and just in Wyoming. I spent a lot of time in Wyoming, and then road trip to Arkansas, and like basically just fished my way all the way back to Alabama. And I got this camera that I'd heard a lot about. It's FS700, which Scotty mentioned a while ago.
Yeah.
It was like the first camera of its kind, like back in the day. This is like a 15-year-old camera, maybe even older than that. And like the big thing was that it was one of the first cameras that was in like a decent price range that could film in 240, and you could slow the footage down like tremendously.
Way down.
And not only that, but it did pre-record, which it basically records, like 10 seconds before you press the record button. So like you like,
isn't it called like cache recording or something?
Yeah, it's like some sort of cache recording.
Yeah.
But you wait for something to happen, then you press the button, and it goes back in time 10 seconds. Instead of filming a trout eating, a fly or missing a fly 3 times in a row, you just wait for him to eat it and then press record, and it jumps back 10 seconds. It's really cool.
Game changer for fly fishing videos.
Yeah, game changer for fly fishing videos, but here's the big but, and this is where it all ties in. It doesn't record sound. And so I literally filmed a whole cross-country tour with a bunch of people. I met up with a bunch of people, just filmed a bunch of people, bunch of slow-mo eats. I have a lot of cool slow-mo in my arsenal.
Yeah.
In my drives from a long time ago, from that whole trip. That was one of the bigger fails that I've had, because I promised too much and nothing happened. And one of the reasons it didn't happen was because I didn't have any sound. And I had all this cool footage, but there was no story, no sound. And I kind of felt like an idiot. And I was like, okay, well, now there's something more to this sound design. And so I dove deeper. I mean, there's a lot of resources out there. I won't even go into what all there is as far as resources and learning goes, but you can find them really easy on the internet. Just, workshops and stuff like that. And there's a few other things too. But I mean, that was the biggest switch in my editing and filming career. And I was just like, dang, I really got to pay more attention to this, because the footage you take means nothing. I think some of you guys might disagree with me, but like, I think it means nothing if you don't have any sound.
So basically, how does, after that trip, you realize the importance of sound. What is like a big part of involving that for you now, and like in your stories and the films that you put together?
Like it literally decides whether people are going to watch your video or not. Like a lot of people say you hear before you see. And I really do think that rings true. Like if there's a video out there, maybe this video, like the audio's all blown out and my voice just
sounds terrible.
is peaking. Like y'all are going to check out of it so quick. But like you're going to check out of it so quick. I really do believe you hear before you see. And audio plays a huge role in what I do.
Was there anyone that kind of played a big role? Like was there anyone that was super inspirational for you or an influential on your filming?
Yeah, for sure. I won't go in the story. I met this guy at my sister's wedding, actually. This dude, his name's Rusty Cockrell. And he has been just the driving force, I think, behind my whole career. And my career's definitely not over. I hadn't made anything yet.
Yeah.
And but that being said, this guy has helped me from square one. And I can't encourage anyone enough out there to be like this dude. He was super patient with me coming up. I didn't know anything, but he was still patient with me and learning stuff. And he was just a big inspiration to my work. And
you did that was what you did all the lodge films with, right?
Yeah. So he loves the outdoors just like I do, and so he's really specialized in the lodge and the hospitality industry, or he at least was there for a while. He's working for a land company right now in Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, no, definitely, because especially with the sound design.
Oh yeah, well yeah, that relates very much so, because I was like, why does this dude always care about because I knew him before my trip to when I lived out in Montana, and I'd filmed with him once before I went out there, and I was like, why does this dude always care about sound? And if you know this guy, Rusty is the biggest sound freak ever. He makes sure just every level is right, and he honestly is really good at what he does as far as sound goes, and just mixing dialogue and ambience and sound effects too, really subtle sound effects. He's pretty dang, he has an ear for sure, so he kind of made me pay attention to it more.
Your work in working with you, especially with the Short Bus Diaries, has been huge with throwing ideas back and forth, and
sure.
especially involving sound. And I think another thing that's been really big is kind of switching. I think I used to just find a track that was good for a video, and then I'd be like, oh, this is good, and then I'd fit the video to the song.
Yeah.
But I think if you kind of reverse that and go at it the other, I feel the correct way, which is you should fit the music to the story, fit the music to the film and the mood.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes in my career, I've been either way, for sure. When I first started, and most of the time when people first start, it's hey, I really like this song by, what was the song?
The song Sail.
Yeah.
Sail.
AWOL Nation, yeah. Yeah.
Every GoPro video from 2012 on.
Yeah. I really like this song. I'm going to try to make this footage work with it. And, everyone starts out like that, but you kind of find that it works both ways. If you reverse it too, where you lay the video out first before you do any sort of song searching or any sort of, it sometimes works, and it sometimes works better. I mean, if I have a juicy track right now, it's, I'm going to fit something to it, but
totally.
And that you always have to be searching, because if you do find that perfect song, it really does make it a lot easier to hear the song before you even go on a shoot. Sometimes before shoot, I'll just listen to music on MusicBed or SoundCloud or something like that, and try to find something that kind of fits the vibe I'm looking for. If I know it's a shoot in Maine, what's going to kind of scream Maine wildlife or Maine, a town in Maine or a woodland scene or something like that. What's going to kind of fit that scene. And so that's a good practice to have.
There's because you spend so much time going through music. I mean, dude, it's one of the most painful processes. It's very rewarding, but it's one of the most painful parts of doing of like the editing process, because you're sitting there and you hear, like, the sound in your head, like, what you're looking for. You can't fully like put it to like a song, but when you hear it and you finally find the track, you're like, that's it, like, boom.
Oh, for sure.
But finding that sometimes can be so tough, dude. Like,
for sure. Well, doing it on the front end helps tremendously, because you're not stupid. Like, what the trip is in general gonna be like, and you can't really predict how everything's gonna be or how every experience is gonna play out as you're kind of piecing your story in your head. But like, before the trip even happens, like, listening to music and getting kind of like a feel for like, okay, there might be like a scene where we're walking through the woods here and like traveling from point A to point B. This would be a good song to use for like a journey portion of my video. Like, we're traveling from point A to point B. This is the song that I think would fit good with like a scene like that. And it really, it's been a key factor in my editing, I feel like, is listening to stuff before you even shoot it. So.
And like, also when you go into a shoot, I'm curious to see or to hear what's like going through your mind before you're about to go on a shoot, because you've been doing this for a while now, and so like you've kind of got it figured out. Like, you've got a lot of it dialed, like your process at least. But like, what does it look like going into a shoot, for you, and like the pre-planning or whatever process you do, or just like what's going through your head?
It's all about the storyline, for sure. I know that's a simple answer, but like getting, your subject from point A to point B, and like making sure things make sense. You gotta wrestle with the story even before the post-production stage. Like, it starts in your head. Like, when you're seriously, the first step is listening to music, and then you're out there on the scene, and it's go time, and you got to make sure all those loose ends are tied up. The people in front of the camera, you got to say, hey, can you repeat that? Because I wasn't recording. Or, hey, can you say that again? But, you sounded kind of flat. I don't know.
Yeah. Like, because you're like in a director role then in that part.
Yeah.
And you're stepping in and like, because I think a lot of times you're like, at least for me, I would be filming and be like, oh, I don't want to like interrupt like what's going on. Like, I don't want to,
for sure,
I don't want to make this awkward or anything. But sometimes you need someone to say something a certain way, or get a shot, or get them to say whatever for the story aspect.
Sure. And
like, consciously being aware of that throughout the whole edit or the whole shooting process is so important. And that's something I've learned like with like short diaries that we've done working together. And you want like you're saying, you're taking your characters through a journey.
Yeah. And
you want to, bring the audience along and like answer all the unanswered questions throughout the way.
For sure.
And I think it's really good to look at it like that, in that approach, because that's like the fundamentals to filmmaking.
Yeah.
Opposed to just what I used to do, which was going out, shooting a bunch of footage,
just see what happens,
and then sitting there for hours trying to figure out what is the story.
Yeah.
And so like going into it, and it all goes down to just doing it more. Like, the more you do it, the more you'll figure out your process.
And that's exactly what people don't want to hear.
Yeah.
When I was coming up, like, I didn't want to hear that. I was like, I think I can film.
Yeah.
But it really does boil down to just doing the process. It is a process. Like, as many times as you can do it, no matter what the subject is of the video, no matter if it's a shitty video or like something you're really passionate about, it's all practice. And so as many times as you can do that thing, the better, because you're going to get faster. You're going to develop, your system, and it's just going to click for you someday. And it kind of has clicked for me. I'm not being cocky or anything, but like, it has, like, I've become really efficient with how I conduct my whole process. And it's just because I've done it probably hundreds of times this year alone. So,
because you're not trying to reinvent the wheel every single time you go out to shoot.
No.
Like, you have a process, and yeah, you can like mix it up and be creative, but you've got your thing, you know?
Yeah.
So what is, you know, you obviously are turning around, like, you know, a big channel like the Googan Squad does a lot. You guys do a lot of videos,
For sure.
like a ton of volume.
Yeah.
What are some things for you, like, to stay focused and like be efficient? Because you've got to turn these videos around in a timely manner. Because I struggle sometimes with just staying focused on a project or like procrastinating it. But what are some things maybe you've done that like have helped you stay focused and disciplined to like finish a project?
For sure. The biggest thing, and then someone told me this a while ago, and I don't really hold that true to it, because sometimes I like to spend a little extra time on a project. But someone told me a while ago, like, you need to set deadlines for yourself, and you need to be like, I can't get away from this computer until I finish either this certain part of this video or I finish this video. You need to set like little mile markers that are you know, pretty out there, like, to make sure you got to get something done at the end of the day. And that's kind of been like the biggest thing. And as far as just structuring my time, I'll be like, if I have a week, it really in the front end, it really does help to know what I'm going to be editing, you know, before the week starts. But if I have a week, I'm like, okay, Monday, Tuesday, I have, or actually this week I have 3 videos to do. Monday and Tuesday, I'm just going to be chopping footage, trimming the fat out, and I'm just kind of going to prep these videos for the real edit, and that's coming later in the week. So I'll usually do like Monday, Tuesday chopping, and like piecing together like a simple frame of the video. And then the other days of the week, it's just putting together these videos. But I can't tell you how important that like assembly process is, of just chopping, maybe fading in and out of audio tracks, and like having a simple frame for your video and your story. And like, you can do a lot in like one day, and it just kind of preps you for the rest of the week. Because like with these videos that I'm turning out, I can turn them out in a couple hours for sure. But yeah, that's kind of been like
really quickly for people who don't know, because I know there's a lot of people that, you know, follow our content that are really interested in getting into videography or are into videography. What does that like assembly process look like? Just if you want to like break it down really quick for people.
It's just step one for me is just chopping all the footage. And sometimes it doesn't work like this, but like I find it like the most productive way I can do it is chopping all the footage. And there's no other way to get around going through all your footage than going through all your footage. I mean, you really have to look at everything, or you're going to miss something that's really important, or I don't know.
Dumping it into a timeline pretty much is like, and then cutting it. Yeah.
So I dump it in a timeline and trim the fat usually.
Yeah.
And, so it goes from there to more just refining that simple frame of a structure that I've kind of created from chopping it, and, you know, kind of kicking out which pieces I don't need and which pieces I do need. And it's just,
which can be tough.
Yeah, it really can, because you're like, oh, that shot's good. Oh, that one is too. But like, what tells the story better, for sure? Or that talking point was really funny, but is it really even relevant?
Right.
And so, yeah, it kind of goes from assembly to refining, and then from refining probably to like a more sound design, and or not sound design, probably music, any sort of ambient sounds that I can add. Like if I have a drone shot, obviously a drone doesn't record any audio.
Yeah.
But you know, adding some ambient sounds to it during that phase, and then, you know, music, and then, you know, make sure all your loose ends are tied up, really, there towards the end. It's kind of like towards the end, you just kind of jump around and do a lot of things at once. It's not really a set. At least that's how I do it.
That's when you kind of get into like your really like your creative.
Yeah, it's definitely like a refinement stage, and that's where you can add the creative touches. Like chopping's just chopping up front. Like you're chopping out the crappy footage.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you really make your mark at the end.
So to kind of get back to the question I was asking, on just like how you're staying focused.
Yeah.
And I think like you're saying, small deadlines are so important. Like giving yourself deadlines. Like for me, I won't finish. I will sit on a video for so long if I don't give myself a deadline.
Oh yeah.
And I think one nice part is having a platform now and an audience, and so who can keep me accountable. So a lot of times, like when I'm gonna release a video, I'm like, all right, it's coming out on this date. Like the video's not done. Like I have to finish it by that date, and that's not to that's not to rush the project, but that's to like give myself, I have to get it done. And so at least that's how it works for me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still working on it. I wish I could be more disciplined on like getting stuff done quicker and like more ahead of time. But a lot of times that's like what it takes. How do you stay like, make it more sustainable, like for yourself, you know, like whether it's like giving yourself breaks or.
Yeah. I mean, breaks are definitely important. And a lot of you who are editing video are working from home. And as soon as you can get out of that office or that coffee table and go somewhere else, like exercise. You and I have talked about exercise, how important that is. Like go for a run, go out to a restaurant, or go see a friend, or go get your mind off video editing. That's how you get through like a grueling day of just chopping boring footage. It's like you really got to separate yourself from you're going to get burned out if you spend 3 days in a row just glued to the chair, no breaks. You know, it's not good. You got to get your mind off of it. I find that I edit better if I take a break and get my mind off of it, get my mind on something else.
Especially doing something active.
Yeah, for sure.
And
yeah.
I think stepping away from a project too is really good. A lot of times when I'm editing, it's like I overthink everything. And like because you watch it back time and time again, you watch it back so many times. But then if you step away for say an hour, go on a run, go on a walk, or just like go get some food or something, get out of that basically, you know, environment that you're in for editing. But then when you come back and you rewatch it, you're like, oh, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, that wasn't that bad.
That wasn't that bad.
Yeah. No, it just, you get new eyes on it.
Yeah.
For sure. And that's a really important step for sure for just keeping yourself sane. Like it's not like a fun job.
Yeah.
It really is not. It's not like you see all these pictures and stuff on Instagram and YouTube. Or not YouTube, but like, you know, just, I mean, yeah, social media.
Yeah,
you
see
videos,
stuff on social
photos.
media.
Like you see all this stuff and you're like, wow, that guy really fishes a lot. Or wow, he's outside all the time.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not the case.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a fun part, but you got to like, you know, remember why you got into the business to start with. You know, it was not, for me at least, it was not for the filming. It was because I just love being outside so much.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and enjoyed like piecing together, you know, a story.
Yeah, for sure. But I feel like the best reset is to remember where I came from, and that was going outside first before ever filming.
Yeah. Especially when you're doing it, you're like, wow, I could be doing a lot worse things right now.
For sure.
So I feel like every video, this might happen to you too, but you're like, at the start, you're like super excited. Yeah. And you're like, oh, this is going to be sick. Like you get back, you're like, oh, I got all this good footage. This is going to be awesome. You start going through the footage and you start piecing together your edit. And then there's a certain point where you're like, God, this sucks. Like, I'm so bad at this. This is terrible. Like, people aren't going to like this. And then you grind it out and you get through that. And then you're like, this isn't bad. And then you're like, oh, I feel like that happens almost every time I go through a video.
It does. Yeah. You have like a weird relationship with the video as you're like, I know that sounds kind of weird, but like,
No, yeah, with the process of it.
Yeah, just like you like it some days and then you absolutely hate it another day, and it's like, oh, this sucks. Everything's terrible. Like, yeah, I wish this just was better. And there's nothing really I can do but just press on. But I wish it was better. Yeah, I guess it's okay. And then you get done with it, and like someone's like, wow, that's really good. Like, thanks.
Oh,
I
really?
was just shitting on myself a while ago, but like, thank you. And
Yeah.
It's weird. I personally, I don't know about you for video stuff, but I hate watching my old stuff. I really do.
Yeah.
And
I kind of enjoy having it though. Like, I don't delete anything that I have on YouTube. I mean, there's a few things I've deleted, but for the most part, you can see all my stuff. And I think it's cool to look back on, like, you know, the first videos that I've done to one, just be like, oh, I've made progress. Like, I've made some progress in my video editing or my production skills.
For sure.
They're definitely cringy. I'm like, ugh. Like, I'm not gonna like show anyone these. Like, I'm not gonna be like, yo, look what I did 5 years ago.
Oh, for sure.
But sometimes it's good to look back and see like where you've came from.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about both of us being perfectionists.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure there's a ton of people out there that are perfectionists. Like, progress over perfection is so important. What are some ways that you've kind of combated being a perfectionist and kind of breaking through some of the downfalls to that?
I don't really have a good answer for that. It's always like, you always hear when someone's asked this question, like, you're your own worst enemy, and you're, you know, the most critical of yourself than anyone else is going to be. And it really is true. And I don't really live by that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know it's true. I'm still a perfectionist at heart, but like at some point in time, like, someone's hiring you to do a video, and like, it's got to get done some way or another. And like, the person that hired you he's not going to do it. So like, you have to do it. Like, I mean, you might have to skip a couple steps of being a perfectionist, like,
yeah,
but it has to get done.
I mean, it's like the constant struggle of a creator, because
speed versus, you know, perfection, I guess, or quality. Speed and quality,
right,
is what it is.
Because there's always going to be something in your film that is like, when you look back, you're like, oh, like, I could have done that better. I could have done this. But I think it's so important that as long as each video you make, or over time, you're getting better, I think that's the most important part. And like, you might be striving for perfection, but you might not like, you're not going to get the perfect video every single time. Like, you know, every video, you're never like, I nailed that. Like, you're like, it's always close, you know, but maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it's always so close, but you can never quite like get to that threshold of like what you're looking for.
I think that's healthy, though.
Yeah.
I think there's a problem, and some of you might say otherwise to me, but like, I think there's a problem when you're like, wow, that's a really good video. Like, I really did a good job. Not that I say every video I've ever made is bad, but having that little bit of, you know, I guess it's hunger, or not hunger, but like, it's just the striving to like do better each time you make a video. I think it's pretty healthy, because it forces you to get better in the long run. And if you're just like, after a video, like, man, I really nailed that, I don't know of anything else I could have done. I've heard people say that, like, I don't know anything else I could have done to make this video better. It was just, congrats to me, you know, I'm the best. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to learn anything past that. You're seeing, I feel like you're seeing the video from a different view. Right. And it's not like a, you know, a critical view.
No, yeah, totally. Like, for people who you think, like, for people who are starting out, do you think there's anything that you see that maybe you went wrong with at the start, or maybe you wish you knew starting out, or maybe even like stuff you see other people who start out maybe kind of miss in terms of like when they're trying to get into video?
Yeah, it would have to be something about like transitions, and why has that become such a thing? Like, I know me and you have both done our fair share of crazy
The zooms.
transitions. I did maybe like 1 or 2 zooms in my day. I know you did some.
Yeah.
But what is it with that dang zoom transition where you're like, man, I'm gonna throw 16 of these in my video, and people are gonna just say, wow,
This is gonna be
every
sick.
single time,
Yeah.
all 16 times. And yeah, that's kind of I think making it make sense is more important than having a transition. Yeah, I said a while ago, like bringing people from point A to point B is important too, but it still has to make sense. Like, I think making logical sense out of a video is way more important than any sort of effect you can put in there. This is really what we're talking about right now. Like, if you're in this business and your focus is trying to get a wow out of people, or you're trying to create that wow factor, if that's your main focus when piecing together a video, then I would argue that you might be in the wrong business. Yes, you are in the entertainment business, but like, I think story trumps all, really. You know, if you're trying to get just praise from people, you know, in every video, I don't think that's good. I think that's just cheap entertainment. There needs to be some depth in there for sure, and I think that's where story comes in.
Because everyone has their own unique voice, their own unique creative abilities, and I think the motive more so, at least for you and I, you know, is like it's like a way for us to express that.
For sure.
You know, and that's not so much. It's not so much that we're doing this because, oh, like we're gonna get a bunch of likes or people are gonna like love this video. You know, it's good. It's good to share your work. I think it's important to share your work with people.
Yeah.
But the motive of it is more so like intrinsic. Like, this is a way for me to share kind of like how I'm feeling about this story, or like share your message in a way, which I think is super important.
For sure.
For you, is there anything, you know, that you've drawn inspiration from outside of video and outside of like the fishing industry? I'd be curious to hear like what sort of inspiration you've drawn.
Just what inspires me? What kind of stuff do I look at?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would say, and the people that I did the internship with in Montana really helped me out with this one. One of them said, hey, take something that is not your niche, if that makes sense. Take something like a subject that you don't film and apply it to the things that you do film. So, you know, you might film hunting, but you might find a video of a swimmer or something. They have nothing in common, but you can still take inspiration from both. So a lot of times I see like people, especially in the fishing industry, watching fishing videos. I'll say that I don't watch any fishing videos. Like I'll watch Scotty's stuff sometimes, but like I'm a fan. I'm a fan of wildflower.
Let's go.
But I mean, I don't watch any fishing videos. I mean, if you really are serious about this and like trying to differentiate yourself, why would you want to watch a fishing video to like get better at your craft? Watch a swimming video. Watch a running video. If you're in action sports, I mean, a lot of the more action sport oriented videos apply still.
Watch a documentary, like a really cool story.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can look at it from that way too. Like, I was thinking about it more from the action, like fishing and swimming, you know, is both like people doing something.
Yeah.
But you can also look at a documentary and be like, wow, I really like how, even if it has nothing to do with fishing, fly fishing, any sort of outdoor adventure, you're like, wow, I really like the way they pieced together that story. And you can still apply it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's that's kind of how I'm all over Vimeo. If you are not on Vimeo at all right now, you should. There's a lot of really, really, really talented people out there that are putting out really good stuff. Yo, this light turned off here.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, I think it died. All right, guys, we're back. We lost a light.
We lost our light. So if this looks really bad, we apologize. We're in our little Airbnb here. In Texas. It's
the classic fish cabin. It really is. You got fly rods in the corner over here. You have the push. This is the longest room of the house over here. If you can see me pointing over here, and that's where we have our push pole. And we've already broken a fly rod in the fan.
Yeah, we've had a pretty rough couple days so far.
We really have.
We haven't gotten a break yet. Like, we got kind of a break with that one fish.
Tomorrow.
But, yeah. Bryant, unfortunately, broke a rod on this fan that's in here. Hadn't you never casted the rod before?
Nope. Never casted
Never casted it. And then we broke that handle for your
tiller handle.
For your motor.
It's literally the throttle that just makes the makes the propeller go, and it snapped in half today. Which is not. I have like a little chub of a handle on there, so it's still doable, but it's just not ideal. But I overnighted some handles down to me.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll get here soon. But
then you had a little spill off the top the first day.
I did.
Dude.
You keep bringing that up.
It's rough. I know it's gonna happen to me tomorrow. I'm gonna get thrown off.
You just wait.
I'm gonna learn how to pull tomorrow, boys. This should be interesting.
Yeah. I was on the top deck and or just on the pulling platform, and something weird. We were just getting absolutely wrecked by the wind, and my pole, the push pole, got hung in the motor, and then the wind like pushed the boat on top of the pole, and the pole basically just pried me off of the boat like a crowbar and just sent me overboard. And Scotty's like, "What the heck is going on?"
I was standing on the front looking out for fish or whatever, and just hear a splash, and Bryant's in the water.
I was so mad.
I know.
I'm so mad.
We were getting like tossed around by the wind anyways. God dang.
Did I mention terrible. We're not professionals?
Yeah. Did we say that we're not saltwater fishing guides? Let's just make that clear.
We're not.
This trip that we're doing down here, I hope you guys understand. I know we're kind of off topic here for a sec, but we both like really have no idea what we're doing. Like we didn't even like we've been like Google mapping, like looking on Google Maps to try to figure out like little areas to fish from the little redfish knowledge that we have, and just piecing things together, which has been really fun, you know. And it's been frustrating and difficult, but I think that's part of like the whole DIY thing that we love so much.
Yeah.
You know, and like that's how you really truly learn. Like we've both gone with people, and you're kind of guided for like red fishing, and a lot of the little things like figuring out where you're going, or figuring out what you're tying on, you don't really think about because it's all set up for you.
No.
But when you're actually in that position and you have to think for yourself, it's like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? But then things slowly start to make sense for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like this week, I feel like.
For sure. Man, that's a perfect segue. You can relate that right back to video.
Yeah.
Stuff. Like when it's kind of done for you, you're just kind of assisting. It's not the real thing. And then when you get a project tossed on you where it's just you, it's real. And I mean, that's exactly how this trip is, and we're learning it the hard way for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I've been frustrated just about every day.
With wind and just a bunch of other things coming our way.
Maybe tomorrow I'll get to throw a cast, but I've been pulling Scotty around.
The second that I caught one fish today, or two fish, but the second I released the fish and hopped on the pulling platform, a huge storm rolled in, and we literally had to leave. Yep. And so I didn't even learn how to pull. But let's segue off of that point into, I think there's a lot of people who are trying to get into video, and everything that are listening. to this. So I'd love to hear from you. Maybe, I guess, bouncing off that point, what I'm trying to say is, or what I was thinking is, I think a lot of people try to take shortcuts.
Yeah.
In the industry, they're looking for that video that's going to give them the golden nugget.
Yeah.
That will, take their videos from here to here.
Mm-hmm.
And, I feel like a lot of people don't want to go through that process.
Oh yeah.
And especially because it's grueling. Like the editing process can be grueling at times.
For sure.
So are there any like tricks that you've figured out, or things that you've learned through just going through the process, that would be helpful for someone that's starting out?
There's no shortcuts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just it. Like, there's no shortcuts. Everyone wants a shortcut, but if you're willing to stick it out and grind it out, like you'll do fine.
Going back to the not, listening to certain people's opinions about your work, even if,
yeah,
like I know, for example, in high school, people would like laugh at me or like poke fun at me for, he makes fishing videos. Like he has a YouTube channel, like yada, yada, yada.
For sure.
Yeah,
I remember some people sitting me down, like it was really mean, sitting me down and saying like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? And yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of, I think everyone that does any sort of creative anything, whether it be music, whether it be video stuff, photo stuff, whatever, it just kind of seems out there to the rest of the public. I feel like there's a lot of people out there that have a creative mind, but there's a lot of people out there that don't. And yeah, there's a lot of people that will go out of their way, I've found out, to make sure you fit in like their little box and just be like, what are you doing? Why are you fishing?
Yeah.
Filming? What are you doing? Why do you like making videos about certain things? And I don't know. I've encountered a lot of people like that. I mean, just let those opinions bounce off of you.
Mm-hmm.
Is the only thing I can really say about that.
That kind of goes into like the whole should you go to college question, which I'm sure, like, looking back, you're probably like, I don't know, what do you think about that whole, because I had such a tough time, man, like, especially just recently graduating, like,
yeah,
figuring out, like, was it worth it, like, this and that, what, from your experience, what do you think?
Everyone wants to say, like, don't go to college. That's what some people want to hear. It's like, you don't have to go to college. You don't have to do that. I don't think you have to go to college, but it does give you a good base. As far as filming goes, it didn't help me at all. But it did expose me to a lot of different types of people out there. And I feel like that was a big advantage for my career, because I learned how to work with different types of people from different backgrounds, stuff like that. So I feel like that part of college is really important. But as far as like film school that goes, a lot of people say like you should go to film school or you shouldn't. I don't know. I kind of do wish I had some more technical training. I think I do know a lot about the editing process, but there are some other, like, probably industry standard stuff that I wish I did know more about. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a film school or something like that would have really helped.
Yeah, it's hard to justify because it's just so expensive.
It is expensive, for sure, but it is an investment. Like, if you can spend a little bit of money on that and learn something that is going to help you for years and years, like, it's definitely worth it.
So I'd love to talk about your college experience.
Yeah.
I'd just love to hear, because you know where you started out and then how you ended up at Lipscomb and kind of your transition of what was going on there and everything.
I went to Mississippi State for 1 year, and like I said when we started this podcast, like, I came from an outdoor family. I love being outside. I love mountains. I love rivers, clear water, shallow water, just, beautiful things that you see outside. And I'm not hating on Mississippi. it is a pretty place for sure. But I went to Mississippi State for 1 year, and I was like, I gotta get out of here. It's just not really. Maybe it's because I'm biased on the things I grew up around. Like I grew up around North Alabama, Middle Tennessee, some beautiful gin clear water, some hills, mountains, stuff like that. I was close to Smokies. Like I was used to all that growing up, and going to college in a pretty flat place like Mississippi. Pretty much the only thing to do over there was hang out with friends and party, and I was just like, I need to like get outside some, like I really do. And so it was really like kind of eating at me. And so one thing led to another. I was like, man, like I really like Nashville. I really like Tennessee and kind of those waters I grew up around, and I'm going to transfer somewhere over there. So ended up being this little school called Lipscomb in Nashville, and it's where a lot of my family went. So it was kind of an easy choice, but it was just, I mean, Tennessee, I can't say enough good things about Tennessee. It's just kind of the mecca, not the mecca, but like it's a pretty good spot for a variety of fishing. You have muskie, you have smallmouth, you have trout. And so that was kind of my, my transition there in college.
I'd love to hear from you. What are some of your future goals with this whole film deal? And, do you have any kind of future aspirations that you want to accomplish in this industry?
Yeah, definitely. I actually, it sounds weird starting in fishing, but I do kind of want to migrate away from fishing. Like still, yes, I started filming fishing, and that is one of my passions for sure. But I do want to focus more on people and really all action sports. And I would like to see myself in a couple years, being in some sort of production house where I'm doing more commercial work. I'm doing some commercial work here and there right now for some companies, but it's not like, I would rather be doing all commercial work, if that makes sense. And I could see myself in like 4 years, 5 years being in some sort of studio for sure. I would love to do anything with action sports, just anything with people doing something, and then anything that's like people focused. I love people. I love telling stories about people. And so that's kind of where I see myself in 4 to 5 years. Is
the next deal.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah, I think both of us can agree, like, documentary filmmaking is like kind of where we draw a lot of our inspiration.
Oh yeah.
Just stems from like the storytelling aspect and focusing on a subject and taking them on a journey. So that's kind of like what you're touching on.
Yeah, it hits you a lot deeper, like a documentary does for sure. And you spend so much, like we said a while ago, like you're putting all these hours. You need to put in the hours. You need to put in the hours. Like at some point, all of these hours have to mean something. And so like, I really do want to progress into work with more value to it, more depth. And so I feel like documentaries for sure they're really hard to make, and they really hit people on a different level for sure. And I feel like that would be one, something that could really, that I could see myself working on in like 4 to 5 years for sure. And then just really honing in on this craft, in like kind of a studio environment.
Yeah, with like more of a production crew.
Yep.
Everything.
More crew base. It's all a one-man show. Like, I feel like for a long time, until you get to a certain point. Like I've started working with several people here now, but it's still more of a one-man show.
Yeah.
And I know at some point you progress to having a crew, stuff like that. But I would like to see myself working more in a crew-based environment for sure.
So what are to kind of start like wrapping things up, what are some things you know, for our audience that are, you know, videographers or are trying to get into filming or photography with fishing specifically? What are some tangible things that you've taken away from filming with Googan that, you know, you think would maybe help other people in specifically like filming fishing videos?
One thing I would say just right off the bat is clean up your shot. And what I mean by that is like, okay, say you caught a fish and you're bringing it in and like you have it there in the boat. You filmed it the whole way in, and it's like this person's going to sit there with the fish and say, wow, this is a great fish. Move like your stinking rod and like the Cheez-Its you've been munching on and beer cans in the boat to the side, and kind of clean up that. You can control that. There's a lot of things you can't control, but like you can definitely control like how like the shot looks. Like so many times I see like footage of someone with a fish talking, and there's just stuff. There's the rod that's in the way. There's line everywhere, and it just doesn't look good. If you have to, just tell them to walk to the other side of the boat that doesn't have as much trash. But I mean, that's one thing that's like, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely to be conscious of.
Yeah, for sure.
It's important. I think one thing that's super important is just getting the shot with fishing. Whether that's with a GoPro, whether that's with your Sony, whether that's with whatever camera you're using. I think you don't have time when you're filming fishing to change to that prime lens or like, you know, fix your ND filter or maybe get your shutter just right. Like sometimes you just got to roll with what you got and just get the shot, like get the hook set, and it might not look the prettiest, but getting the shot is so important, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty important. I mean, it is a fishing video, so you need to show fish being caught somewhere for sure. I don't know of many fishing videos that don't have, you know,
some of our trips, because we just have no idea what we're doing.
Yeah, actually, this trip is going to be one of the first fishing videos y'all ever see where you don't really see much fish being caught.
We'll get on them.
Yeah, tomorrow. As far as just things that I think up and coming filmmakers and just video people, camera people, whatever you want to call them, one thing that I think everyone should go by is just don't be afraid to like ask whoever you're filming to just do something again and get another angle. Like say like Scotty goes and ties on a fly. You know, I have a fly box. He reaches in the box, ties a fly ties a fly on that he's selected out of this fly box. You know, I might film it at a wide angle first and then say, okay, I know you're going to hate me, but cut the thing off and then let me film it at a tighter angle. Like let me zoom in if you have a zoom lens and get a close up of it. A lot of these things that you guys see on not just fishing videos, but I mean a lot of videos, you know, people are asking these subjects to do things, you know, 3 to 4 times, maybe even more than that. Like, hey, go and cast that rod in that direction right there. Okay, do it again. Okay, do it again. Like, don't be afraid to ask someone to do something again. I probably already said that.
Take the director role where like you know, like this goes back to planning ahead and being like, you know what, going into this, I know I need these shots for this scene or this transition, and you know, taking that role to be like, hey, do that again, and not worrying about, oh, this might be awkward or I feel like I'm, you know, in the way kind of deal. I
had a client a while ago ask if there was like a certain shot, like I don't want to say too many specifics because it's a really good client, but like there was a certain thing that he wanted that I just didn't film. And it's not really my fault, but it's just something that he wanted to see, I guess. And this is like way after the fact, after the video's been filmed and everything, way after the fact. And he's like, hey, do you have this like specific shot here? And I'm like, no. What I was going to say is it's so important to ask people to do something, for the camera, because it's not like you can CGI someone.
There's not that much
fishing.
money in the vlogs industry.
Yeah, you're not gonna if you're in the post room, piecing together a video, you're like, man, I really wish I had Scotty casting into this starry Milky Way sky. Just big Milky Way above, and then redfish jumping everywhere. I wish I had that. I should have got that. It's not like you can direct that, like, when you're, on the scene, but, like, you can't see. I can't see. Maybe you could CGI it, but
I'm not good with After Effects. So.
But, like, you get what I'm saying. Like, just take initiative and be like, yo, Scotty, I want you to cast over there. There's a big Milky Way above you. There's redfish jumping everywhere. I don't know where I'm going.
Making sure you're getting that.
Yeah, for sure. If you see a important moment, don't be shy. You're not going to get it again. Like, for sure. I don't know how good any of you guys are at CGI, but like, you just gotta get the shot. That's what you're.
If anyone's good at CGI, let us know so we can CGI some fish into this video.
Yeah, for real. And CGI the handle back onto my my tiller. Gosh. CGI my
your rod back together.
Rod back together too. That'd be great. Thank you.
All right, we're about to wrap this up, folks. We've kind of been all over the place, but I hope you guys have hopefully, especially you guys who take who are into video, or even if you're not into video, just maybe like understanding the process a little bit more, maybe able to like take a few things away from us. This has been really fun getting to hear your process.
Talking
about everything, man. Kind of getting to hear a lot of like how you got into this whole deal, and some of the struggles that we've both kind of been through the process. But just would love to hear some like last minute, maybe like one thing you'd want to tell someone who's trying to get into the fishing industry or getting into videography. They're kind of just hesitating. They're on the cusp and they just can't quite commit to it, or someone who's just kind of curious. They can't quite commit to wanting to get into it. Is there any advice you'd have for what you've taken away from this whole journey of becoming a videographer and this whole creative process?
Yeah.
And maybe anything you'd want to convey to anyone who is interested in kind of following that path?
For sure. So this was, someone told me this a while ago when I was kind of first starting out. Someone was like, hey, if you're really interested in this and you really want to do this, surround yourself with people that are better than you. Like, just flat out better than you at, your work and your craft. And that really every stage of my business in what I do for a living, like, I've surrounded myself with someone that is better than me. And it forces you to get up to their level and try to match it. And, you're trying to reciprocate what you see. And it's just kind of it's a good thing to do. I feel like when you're trying to start out, it's like, okay, this guy's better than me, but, I might go and film with him, or I might reach out to him and be like, hey man, like, if you ever need help, like, let me know. 'Cause I know how to work a camera. And, it could be that person's like, yeah, I really do need help. And then, you're all of a sudden you're working with them. And I feel like you learn so much in that situation when there's someone that's just flat out better than you. And you're like, okay, like, this guy has it going on. What is he doing that I'm not?
And I feel like a lot of times, maybe like people can switch up how they ask their questions too. Like, one, not being intimidated by people that are better than you.
Yep.
Like, definitely reaching out, and especially sharing your interest or sharing your passion and asking, asking questions. But I think a lot of times people get caught up with the question like, oh, what camera are you using? Or like, what equipment are you using? What editing software are you using?
It really doesn't mean much. I mean,
what do you think like is a different approach to that?
Don't think about the gear. I mean, it's the person 100%. Like it's not the cameras that really tell the story. It's the person behind it, directing it behind the scenes for sure. And it's the person and it's the time that they've put into it for sure. Like editing, like, yeah, there's automated systems out there now that can edit simple videos, but I don't know if there will ever be an automated machine that can really tell a story like you can tell it.
Everyone has their unique voice, their unique creative ability, no matter if you think you're not creative or if you are creative. I feel like everyone's got something that they can share that's unique to them. Sure. And that's kind of like what we're trying to say, is this is a great outlet to go about it. Sure. Yeah. Just off of that thing you're saying with surrounding yourself with people that are better than you, like a quote I love to hear, or I've heard in the past is, you should be the average of your top 5 best friends, or something like that. And I think that rings true with the people you surround yourself around in the industries that you're in,
for sure,
that push you and or help you not become complacent. So
for sure, I just want to say couple things. If you guys haven't been following along with Scotty and his channel, he's absolutely killing it. Wildfly, Short Bus Diaries, like he's been killing it. Really been liking everything he's been putting out lately. And if y'all are kind of late to the party here, like y'all should keep watching and subscribe. And yeah, Scotty's gonna do a lot with this channel.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, he's killing it.
Gotta give credit to Bryant for coming up with the whole Short Bus Diaries name. That was a random idea thrown in a group message a few months ago.
It was just a random deal. I know y'all mentioned in the last podcast like how.
Yeah, kind of, not really.
Yeah,
we touched on it.
Yeah, it was literally just a fleeting thought. I was just like, how about we just buy a bus? And then it happened to be a short bus, and I was just okay. Let's go fish out of it.
Yeah. And here we are. That's hilarious. Well, cool. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Sure. If you're listening, if you're watching, either way, if you guys are ever interested, if you're listening and you want to watch the video version, we've always got that available on our Wildfire Podcast YouTube channel. Just go over there. We'd appreciate you checking that out.
Yeah.
And thanks to Bryant for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this has been a ton of fun. Where can people find you if they want to connect or if they want to check out some of your work?
Like I said a while ago, I was kind of taking a hiatus from Instagram, but my Instagram handle is brpatt, BRPATT. So
if you want to go check out your work,
yeah, that's where you can find me. And then website is where you can also check out my work. It's just my name. So
Bryant Patterson.
Yep. .com. That's it.
Bryant BR Pat's making a comeback on Instagram 2021. I'm calling it.
We'll see.
The biggest comeback ever.
I gotta fish more.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for listening. We appreciate y'all. And we will see you guys in the next one.